We are live, the Ourlads Football Network, Proline TV, talking about the Denver Broncos. I'm your host, Greg DePalma, and whenever we talk about the Denver Broncos, that means it is time to bring in Chris Tomasson from the Denver Gazette. Chris, thanks for doing this.
Hey, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Well, it's nice to talk to you on a Saturday night. It just shows you how dedicated we both are to the business. So, the Broncos sort of fresh off of a very disappointing way to end the season. So I got to start there, Chris. I know you're not a fan, but you have the pulse of the fans. How did they treat that whole week before the game and then after the game?
Yeah, naturally the fans were down. I mean, this was kind of a season where everything was going right for the Broncos. I mean, they won all kinds of games in crazy fashion. And it was like, boom, in one swoop. Well, here's one thing that's going against you. And that was Bo Nix's broken ankle, of course, against Buffalo. And that totally, I mean, Bo Nix a couple weeks ago on a conference call just talked about the highest of highs and then the lowest of lows all together when that happened. That kind of cast a pall over everything. And then, there was still a lot of optimism with Jarrett Stidham heading into that game, the AFC Championship game against New England, and then more bad breaks for the Broncos after everything had been going their way. I mean, they were getting the best of the Patriots before the snow came, and then once the snow came, I mean, Stidham was completely, totally effective, and there was the game. But I think the Broncos fans realistically thought that they probably wouldn't have beaten the Seahawks even with a healthy Bo Nix. So, it would have been great to go to the Super Bowl, obviously, from their standpoint, but it might have harkened back to some of those John Elway wipeouts in the Super Bowl in the 1980s.
Yeah, I think the most disappointing aspect of it had to be losing Nix, of course, because a healthy Nix, especially the way that game went, kind of felt good about Denver's chances getting to the Super Bowl and then in the Super Bowl. So that's really got to, as a fan, and I am one, that would really eat at me more than anything. Just to know that my team had come that close, and it was just because my quarterback, got injured, and just the way it happened too. At the end of the game, basically almost one of the last plays of the game. It's just so unfortunate, and that's got to really drive those fans kind of a little bit bonkers. But I know it's over, and it's been a few weeks. I'm sure they've gotten over it, or at least I hope they have. So, all right.
Yeah, just the nature of the way the injury happened. I mean, if he had gone down in a heap, and people would have they're cheering right away, but everyone was going crazy and driving home. And I mean, I talked to some ex-players who were whooping it up after the game, and then they found out in their car on the way home, and it was like, oh, really? They had to double check and call people to make sure it was real news.
I mean, I've never seen anything like it. And I mean, I don't know if you have. We both have been paying attention to this game for many, many years. I've never seen anything like this before. It's crazy. So
yeah, an injury. I mean, if you closely watch the replays and what have you, you see him kind of limping when he goes to the sidelines. But guys in football limping all the time.
Yeah,
I mean, there were no alarms at all. And then Sean Payton comes out with his surprise press conference and announces it.
What about Peyton? Did the fans how of course Peyton's done a lot of good for the franchise. They are where they are because of him, in part because of him. How did they take to the way the whole game transpired? There was a lot of criticism on Peyton based on going for it, taking a 2-score lead, snow is coming, all that stuff. It seemed a little bit weird that he would make that call. But look, we're not Denver fans, so maybe they're used to it and they're okay with it. How did they take to that?
Yeah, there was a lot of criticism, but I think Sean Payton described it well a couple days afterward, the Tuesday following the game. He didn't regret necessarily going for it. He just regretted the play call. And yeah, they had the momentum, and their fullback, Adam Prentice, had just converted a key 3rd and 1. It was 4th and 1. And, they could have run the ball, quarterback sneak, what have you. And even if they threw the ball, it was a crazy call. I mean,
Yeah.
Jared Stidham dropped back. I mean, I know he was under some pressure, but he dropped back 10 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. And even if the pass was complete, it would have been short of the first down.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the with the backup quarterback, it was a ridiculous play call. And so, I think that maybe has taken more heat than just going for it.
Okay, so let's turn the corner and get this going. This is why we have you on to talk about Denver's offseason. The picks, of course, they're going to be drafting very late in the first round. Correct me if I'm wrong, no round 4 or round 6 picks this year.
Well, yeah, but 9 total picks with they expect a couple of compensatory picks, and first round selection will be number 30.
Okay. The cap space looks pretty decent. It's right there right around the middle at 28 million. And of course, they'll be able to free up some cap space if they like. Are there any targets, easy targets to free up cap space? I was taking a look at some of the contracts. So yeah, I see a few guys on here. I mean, Greenlaw, Jones, Mims, Pert, and Moss seems like the most likely candidates. Are any of those guys in jeopardy of being cut?
Pert, I think, is gone. Mims, no chance of being gone. Who is the Greenlaw? I say you give him another year. I mean, I think he's been injury prone, but when he was able to play, he looked pretty good. So, it's certainly possible they could let him go, especially if they want to bring back both Alex Singleton and Justin Sternad. But I would keep Greenlaw. I mean, he was a marquee signing last year. And who was the other one?
The one with the large.
No, Moss, no chance. I mean, Mims and Moss are on rookie deals. They're not.
That's
let
true.
These guys go. But we can talk if you want about a Barron and the cornerback situation if you want, or we could save it for later.
One more, and that also is a defensive back. Is Brandon Jones safe?
I think so. I mean, he had injuries toward the end of the year, but they like their safety duo. I mean, both, Brandon Jones and Hufang come out and they've said they're the best safety duo in the NFL. And if you don't bring back Jones, that means you're committing to, re-signing PJ Locke.
That's not a good idea.
A guy who lost his job, who desperately wants to come back and told me a few weeks ago he's willing to take a pay cut, but I don't think you just cut Jones like that.
Okay.
Unless they take a safety in the first round or something of that nature, but not with their existing roster.
So pretty much seems like that they're, especially since they are good in cap space, that we're not going to see any crazy veteran cuts or anything like that for the Broncos. So let's start. Why don't we start there?
Bring up one guy, and that's Ben Powers, who had injury problems. I mean, he has no guaranteed money. He's on the 4th year of his 4-year deal. And Alex Palczewski played well when Powers was out. When Powers returned, he took over the starting job, but Powers, didn't sign an extension. I mean, I think there's certainly a chance that they look at the offensive line situation during spring drills. And if they think that Alex Palczewski, is a guy that potentially could be the starter at left guard, I mean, it's not out of the realm that Powers could get let go. And people have also mentioned Evan Ingram. That would be a big cap hit. But, let's say they draft a tight end in the
Yes.
first round or something. It's certainly possible. But he's a guy that, like Greenlaw, I'd give him another shot in his second year with the team.
Yeah, Ingram would be 10 million in dead cap, 3 million, almost 4 million in savings, whereas Powers would be close to 10 million in dead cap, but an $8 million savings. So definitely a couple of names there to keep an eye on. Okay, let's stick with the defensive backfield then, because I'm going to take a look at since we're talking about some of these free agents, and one of them is a restricted free agent. Of course, McMillan had a really big breakout year, and that has to be a priority. They're going to try to sign him to a long-term deal.
Well, I don't know if he necessarily had a breakout year. He was just more people saw him, especially in the playoffs, nationally televised against Buffalo. But
Okay.
This guy for the last couple of years has been top notch. And I was stunned that he got such little love in voting for the slot position on the AP All-Pro team. I mean, if the voting was done after the playoffs with that tremendous interception, it might have been a different story. But but that's going to get people's attention. He's a restricted free agent, and will somebody, they'll have to decide what sort of tender to give him, and somebody could come in with a crazy offer sheet on him. And I mean, he is good, but I think they need to potentially decide where they want to play Jahdae Barron, their first round pick last year, who was up and down with his playing time during the regular season, got some time when Pat Surtain was hurt, but really was a non-factor in the playoffs. A lot of people figured that McMillan would move on after this season, but maybe that won't be the case. If they keep McMillan, then he's your nickelback and Barron isn't. And in that case, then do you let Barron challenge Randy Moss and play him on the outside? I think they need to decide what to do with Barron. Is he going to be a slot corner of the future? If that's the case, maybe you don't bring back McMillan. But if you bring back McMillan, you have to look at Barron potentially as a starter at outside cornerback. I mean, this is your first round pick. I think they need to clear a spot for him next year.
Yeah, interesting decision there. They can afford to make the deal with McMillan, but that will be interesting because I look at the rest of the secondary, and of course you have defensive player of the year, Patrick Surtain from a couple of years ago, and he's still pretty much a top-notch player, of course. You mentioned that they really like their safety tandem, and then McMillan played really well. You have Barron as a first-round pick, but after that, the rest of the unit kind of looks like there could be some improvement needed. So if you take one of those guys out, I'm not sure that's the right way of doing it, and I'm sure they probably feel the same way.
Yeah, I don't think they're cutting anybody. I mean, J.L. Skinner, I guess he's on his rookie deal, no guaranteed money in his last year. I mean, he's a guy potentially. I mean, he's just been a special teams guy in his first 3 years, so it'd be interesting to see what happens with him. And P.J. Locke, I mean, he did play well when he took over for Brandon Jones late in the season, but he's a guy who was beaten out by Hufanga, and he's a free agent. So a lot will depend on if they bring back him in terms of the safety spot. But Chris Abrams-Drain, we didn't mention him. He, in his second year, looked pretty good when Surtain was out, and I think they kind of like him as a reserve cornerback. So they do have some depth there.
Okay, and Moss, I mean, I know he's only going to be on his fourth year next year, but still, is he one of those players that there's always a player or two at the fan base gets on? I don't know how the Broncos feel about him, but I know he hasn't had the smoothest development with the team, and obviously they made the move to pick Barron last year. I'm sure that had a lot to do with it too. So, do you think it's important for them to add another cornerback as early as the first round as a possibility?
I don't know if I'd see him draft a cornerback in the first round for the second consecutive year. I mean, I think they need help more so on offense, or if they do go defense, maybe an inside linebacker, just depending on what they decide to do with the free agents. I mean, they'll know how they stand with whether Singleton or Sternad is coming back.
Sure.
I mean, when the draft rolls around. So
do they like Moss?
Yeah, they like him. They talk him up all the time, and what they're not happy with some of his penalties. He was among the NFL leader in pass interference calls, but
fans hate that.
Yeah, but they've said some of those calls are questionable, and also they bring up the fact that teams target him because Surtain's on the other side, perhaps the best cornerback in the league, so he gets more than a share of throws his way. So but he's a guy by no means is assured of being the starter next year. I just think, like I said before, if they decide Barron's future is on the outside, Barron could beat him out next year.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions definitely that need to be answered before the draft. Staying with the free agents on defense, you mentioned Singleton and Sternad. So Sternad actually seemed to be a little bit of a surprise, positive, productive defender last year after being mainly a special teams guy earlier in his career. And Singleton's going to be, 33, 34 next year. So what do you think they're going to end up doing there? What would be your best guess with those three guys? We mentioned Greenlaw, Sternad, and Singleton.
Well, the thing about Singleton, they have to ask themselves, I mean, he's the guy who wears the green dot, so he's playing every single play. And you mentioned he's getting up there in age. They'll have to decide if they re-sign him, whether we want this guy to be playing every single play this coming season. So maybe you sign him to a one-year deal and just kind of evaluate things. Sternad told me a couple of weeks ago, flat out, I mean, he's tired of being a reserve. He looked good in 2025 when Singleton was injured, and then he filled in for Greenlaw every time he got hurt, or he had a one-game suspension this year. And he said, I want to be a starter and I want a multi-year deal. Of course, that means another suitor is going to have to step up. But I think he's shown enough that he can get a multi-year deal to become a starter with another team. I mean, Cody Barton did last year, coming from Denver and ended up with Tennessee. And, Josie Jewell got a deal a couple of years ago. So those deals are potentially out there. So Sternad doesn't want to return if both Greenlaw and Singleton are coming back.
True.
So they're going to have to decide of those three guys, which two are their top priority to bring back, because I don't think they can bring back all three.
And I mean, talent-wise on paper, you would think it would be Greenlaw. Do you agree with that? Do you think that's the case?
Well, unless they think that he's injury prone, and then let's just cut the cord here. I mean, he had several injuries, but like I said, when he played well, but he was pretty much, when he came back, he was on a snap count virtually the rest of the season. It's a decision on whether, hey, let's just cut the cord, or let's roll the dice and hope he doesn't get hurt again.
And then up front, for John Franklin Myers, he's a free agent now at 30.
Yeah, I imagine.
Do you think he's a priority, or will they let him go?
No, they'll let him go. They never even brought up, I mean, I wrote extensively about it during the season. They never even offered him an extension. They never even suggested it. There was no negotiating. And I don't think, I mean, with his age around 30, and some of the guys they handed extensions out to on defense, Malcolm Roach got an extension, and Nick Benito, of course, got an extension. And then Zach Allen, of course, Allen and Benito are Pro Bowl, all pro caliber type players. But Malcolm Roach, younger, they considered him having a bigger upside than John Franklin Myers. So, Yeah, I mean, Awazarike could step in and become the starter. They drafted a young guy, Savion Jones, last year. He didn't play much, but he's kind of waiting in the wings as a potential starter. No, they've kind of been earmarking, for the last year that John Franklin Myers probably isn't going to sign another contract with the Broncos.
You mentioned Awazarike and Jones. I'll throw a question there before we move over to the offensive side. Are there any young players like that the Broncos that you know of feel confident or are hoping that said player or players are guys that they really feel will take that next step and help with the development, and also maybe help because they're younger and their contracts and so forth? So you've already mentioned Jones and Awazarike. Are there any other players, young players on defense, people, especially outside of Denver, who may not know, should be keeping an eye on?
Yeah, there definitely is at outside linebacker. I mean, Dondre Tillman, who is not actually that much of a young guy. He banged around in spring leagues for 3 years before making the Broncos in 2025. But this is a guy who would be a starter at outside linebacker with a lot of teams. Jonah Ellis, who's entering his third year. They have tremendous depth at that position. They've got Nick Benito and Jonathan Cooper are the surefire starters. And then you got Q Robinson, who looked good, including getting a sack in the playoffs. So they're loaded at outside linebacker, and it would not be crazy if, one of them was maybe even like a Jonah Ellis is dangled as trade bait, because they've got 5 solid guys and only 2 can play at once.
And that is a premium position, as we know, in the NFL. So that could be interesting. Okay, let's now move over to the offensive side, and a handful of free agents to talk about here. And you mentioned tight end already. I'm sure it's nice that Troutman, it's reliable. Peyton's been working with them practically his entire career, but they acquired Ingram, and it just hasn't appeared that that's worked out at all. I got to assume that Peyton is itching to get a quality pass productive tight end on his roster, and how that could really help Bo Nix and this offense. So do you think they just bring Troutman back on a cheap deal? I can't imagine he's going to warrant that much. And then maybe try to find a tight end as early as round 1.
Well, I expect Troutman to come back. I mean, Sean Payton loves him. And if you're a Sean Payton guy, you stick around.
That's right.
So he probably gets a small raise. I mean, they know what his role is. I mean, he can catch a timely pass, but he's a good blocker. He's a tremendous locker room guy, extremely intelligent. And he's going to be a coach probably in the NFL one of these days. So he's a guy that could, when Peyton will come to him one day and say, hey, you really can't cut it, and then he'll all of a sudden become a coach on the staff. So I would be stunned if he's not re-signed. Okay. And, Nate Atkins is a restricted free agent. He's another guy that Peyton loves with his blocking. And, it was kind of like a joke that they wouldn't put him on IR. I mean, he had some injuries in which he ended up missing like 5 games, and he never went on IR because there was always the hope he might come back. And then Ingram is kind of the wild card there. Again, it would be a big hit. I think tight end is a huge priority, and they very well could take a tight end in the first round of the draft. Then they have to ask themselves, obviously, who goes, because kind of tough to keep 4 tight ends on the roster.
Yeah, and also again, like I said, I don't even know what exactly his dollar amount is, but when you have a tight end making as much as Ingram does, and he's on the team, that's not really fiscally smart, and I'm sure they're going to try to figure out a way maybe to move on from him, even if they have to eat up some of that dead cap space, depending on when they can find that tight end. Not sure it's going to, who knows? It could be in free agency as well. There could be some decent tight ends available in free agency. We could see that. They do have cap space. Okay. Moving on. Running back, Dobbins just continues to get hurt just about every season. McLaughlin is a restricted free agent. Do you anticipate either one of those two running backs? McLaughlin probably an easy, contractual bring back him on actually little cap space there. But Dobbins, you expect him to come back?
Well, first Dobbins, he desperately wants to come back, and he's a great guy. It's kind of a shame from his standpoint. He was heading toward the best year of his career, 772 yards through 10 games, surefire 1,000-yard season it looked like, and then boom, he gets hurt again, hurts his foot. Made a great recovery and came close to even being activated for the AFC Championship game. And if they'd made the Super Bowl, he was saying 100% he would have played. But, what kind of money can you give him? He got a sweetheart deal last year from the Broncos standpoint, just barely over $2 million for a year. I mean, maybe you give him a little bit more money and keep him around again on a 1-year deal. But I don't think you can break the bank by any means on a guy who just unfortunately continuously gets hurt. And you mentioned McLaughlin. I mean, he didn't play at all basically in the first half of the season. I mean, he shows flashes, but his pass blocking is very suspect. So when he does play, even as the number 2 back, he's only getting 10 snaps in a game. I mean, he's a restricted free agent. He might be the type of guy that they just say, well, bring us an offer sheet and we'll decide if we want to match it or not.
Okay. And then let's see, there's really not much else on the offensive side. Humphrey, he's just another body. They're pretty deep at receiver at this point. Is that the feeling that they're pretty deep? They're pretty, or do you think they still have to get another guy back there?
Well, they need a game breaker type receiver guy. Cortland Sutton made the Pro Bowl, but he's not really an explosive game breaker type. And he's, I know they did give him a contract extension, but he's also entering his 9th season. And Troy Franklin, shows some signs, but also is prone to dropping passes. Marvin Mims, I mean, he has his moments, and a lot of people wonder why they don't throw the ball to him more. Pat Bryant came on, looked good in his first year. I mean, I think that was a good draft pick, but he's a possession type receiver. I mean, they don't have that wow type of guy, that game breaker type guy with a high ceiling. So it's not out of the question that if a wide receiver could be who they take at number 30 with their pick.
Do you think they'll try to bring Humphrey back?
He's always there. I mean, he's a Sean Payton guy. I mean, we probably talked about Adam Troutman, and probably find a way to sign him to the minimum, and maybe he starts the season on the practice squad, gets his 3 elevations, and then we'll see if we have some injuries. But he's just kind of a guy who's, always around in the bullpen. So wouldn't be surprised if he's with the team again in some capacity next season.
Speaking of injuries, what is the expected timeline for Bo Nix?
Well, he said a couple of weeks ago that 4 to 6 weeks, which puts him, end of March. And according to him, there's no reason to believe that he won't be available for spring drills. I mean, there was a lot of misinformation put out. I mean, George Payton, the general manager, I asked him a few weeks ago, and he said, well, he'll be back close to May, which was completely different than what Nick said. And then, of course, Sean Payton had come out and said that, well, he was predisposed to injury, which Nick's vehemently denied and insists that he's not injury prone. So, I mean, I got to take Nick's word because it's coming right from the surgeon that he'll be rearing to go come spring drills. I mean, they might want to be careful with him and that sort of thing, and
sure,
limit his participation just because it is spring drills. But there's no reason to believe he won't be at full strength. I mean, come training camp at least.
Michael Burton, he was out all last year. What's his status?
I'd be very surprised if he's back. I mean, he's getting old, missed the entire season. Adam Prentice became their fullback, had a really nice season for him this year. I mean, he's a free agent, but certainly a guy that could be re-signed at a very reasonable price tag. I mean, people aren't lining up around the block for fullbacks,
No.
as you know.
Yeah.
So I would be very surprised if Prentice, if they brought back Burton over Prentice.
Okay. And was I leaving anybody out? Speaking of injuries, are there any other players who need to be monitored or players that missed a considerable amount of time last year that are going to be welcomed back this year?
Well, a couple of guys who finished up on IR. Drew Sanders, the linebacker. I mean, he's been around now 3 seasons and he keeps getting hurt, but again, he's on his rookie contract, and they did designate him to return for the last couple weeks of the season. So they got to look at him in practice. I mean, they'll get a look at him and decide. I mean, we talked about inside linebacker, and that's what he plays. So they probably have in their minds what kind of player he could be if he stays healthy. Lucas Kroll, another guy who finished up on IR, but nothing super special as a tight end. I mean, he made the roster this past year, mainly due to other guys being hurt. Atkins got hurt at the start of the season. If that didn't happen, Lucas Kroll probably wouldn't have made it. So, he's another guy who, they'll look at and give him a chance, but he obviously doesn't have a high ceiling.
How did the rookie class in general perform as far as expectations last year?
Well, we've talked about Barron. He didn't get a lot of snaps, next to nothing in the playoffs. I mean, he had some bright spots when he played, especially when he got extended snaps when Surtain was hurt. So I think the jury's still out on him. R.J. Harvey became the starting running back when Dobbins was out. Ended up leading the team with 12 touchdowns, but just only averaged about 3.7 yards per carry. Very inconsistent. Broke some tackles, had some nice runs, was good around the goal line, but just no consistency. I mean, too many games where he had like 12 carries for 32 yards. So, again, jury's still out on him. The punter, Jeremy Crawshaw, who they took, had a great season as a rookie. Q Robinson, we touched upon him. I think he has a lot of talent as an outside linebacker there. Let's see who else is in our rookie class. Caleb Lawner was 7th-round pick as a tight end. I mean, that might go down as just a complete wasted draft choice. Spent the entire year on the practice squad. He's a guy who, never played football at any high level until his senior year at Utah. And he's definitely still a project. I mean, he's been sitting there on the practice squad, but nobody has been inclined to pick him up. So he's a guy who, might end up again on the practice squad.
Okay. We'll close this out by going over the team needs. So is there a definite need on the team that every fan in Denver knows about, or are there 2 or 3 different needs that are going to be all depending upon who's available in free agency and of course who's available in the draft?
Well, you tipped off that you were going to ask this question, so I have come prepared.
Okay. So, I saved the best for last.
Yes, and then I might add one thing we didn't discuss after that, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Tight end, we've already mentioned it. Strong possibility that they could take a tight end in the first round of the draft. Wide receiver, a guy with game-breaking potential. Again, if some top-level wide receiver is staring at them at number 30 and not out of the question, they could take it. Running back, we've touched upon that. A lot depends on whether they want to bring Dobbins back. I mean, what they did last year, they didn't sign Dobbins until June. So who knows? Maybe you do the same thing this year, depending on if other teams, you kind of see how the draft goes and free agency goes, and then see if Dobbins is still sitting around in June like he was. Inside linebacker, we touched upon that. A lot's going to depend there on what they do with, the three guys. I don't think they're going to bring Greenlaw, Singleton, and Starnett all back. So if one of them doesn't come back, they'll have to get some depth there. And defensive line, we touched upon it. I mean, John Franklin Myers is most likely gone. So I think they're going to need another defensive lineman. And they had Jordan Jackson, who played in all 17 games in 2025, but was pretty much inactive just about the entire season. I think he's a guy who's kind of reached his ceiling, and he's another guy they might end up looking to replace. So they might have a couple openings for defensive linemen. And then the other thing that we never touched upon, backup quarterback. I mean, Jarrett Stidham, the bottom line is he was not impressive when he had his shot. And they've got a guy, Sam Ellinger, who's been a part-time starter in the league, who they like a lot, who had some chances on the practice squad to go to other teams' 53-man rosters, but, they took care of him, gave him a few elevations, so he got some extra money, put him on the 53-man roster during the playoffs. I mean, not out of the question that Ellinger could challenge Stidham if Ellinger returns as a free agent to be the backup behind Bo Nix.
Okay, so that's definitely something that maybe the average fan, especially outside of Denver, would not realize. So Ellinger, a guy to keep an eye on to not only come back, but also to compete with Stidham for that number 2 job. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. Okay, so tight end, wide receiver, running back, inside linebacker, and defensive line. So, and what you're saying is, can you see, especially when you're drafting so far down, 30th overall, can you see any of those positions going in the first round?
Oh yeah, unequivocally.
Okay.
I mean, all our candidates, I would think, for their first round pick, and maybe they try to trade up. Maybe you try to use like a Jonah Ellis, the depth you have at outside linebacker to try to move up in the draft. It's going to be kind of it'll be interesting. They've since although Peyton didn't have a first round pick his first year, and they did end up with Marvin Mims in 2023 late in the second round. So they've gotten, and a lot of people thought last year they were going to take a running back in the first round. They ended up with R.J. Harvey in the second round. So they put a lot of stock on they don't necessarily have to have a high first round pick, but if somebody really intrigues them, wouldn't be surprised if they made a move.
Yeah, the interesting thing is when you're talking about trading up, I think the one position, the one player that makes the most sense, because he could still be close enough for Denver to not have to worry about making a dramatic move up, could be tight end, could be Sadiq. Matter of fact, I think we have him. We did our first mock draft a couple of weeks ago. And let's see, our guys, Dave Syvertson and John Cooper, they went with Jake Galde, the linebacker from Cincinnati. But let's see, where did they go? I think, right around here. So they had Sadiq going as far as maybe 23rd. It's very early in the process, but that's not that far off from 30th. So do you agree that if they do trade up, Sadiq?
Oh yeah, there's no doubt they could target a tight end.
Major targets.
Yeah, there's
tight end.
I mean, I think the biggest failing in the draft last year for them was that it was an extremely deep draft for tight ends last year, and they did not come away with a tight end until the 7th round when all the good tight ends were gone, and they, took a flyer on Caleb Lohner, who, which, as we've stated, could have been a wasted pick. I think that was their biggest failing, that they didn't latch on to a quality tight end somewhere. A lot of people thought they would take a running back in the first round. They surprised a lot of people by taking Barron, but if they had taken a running back in the first round, then maybe they end up taking a tight end in the second round. So you end up with a running back and a tight end rather than a cornerback and a running back.
Yeah, and the running back situation being completely different because Love is going to be a top 10 pick more than likely. And so that would really take a move. And the other thing is that I don't really know whether or not, let's just say at this point, Katron Allen, we have as the number 2 rated running back. I'm not so sure Katron Allen is a late first round draft pick. Anything's possible. We still have some time to go. He's a very talented player. And then wide receiver, you take a look at those guys. And once you get past the top 3, there is a little bit of a drop off, even though we have Denzel Boston in the 20s. And Concepcion, we have him, I think, maybe going to the Bills somewhere late in the first round. So we have 5 receivers. And then, of course, at that point, you're talking about getting a guy like a game breaker type guy. And that is obviously a lot harder to do the later in the first round you go. But then again, maybe that's also something that they could target if they want to trade up in the draft. So,
well, let me amend my big 5. And I'll say that running back is probably not all that likely with the number 30 pick. I mean, last year they were desperate for a running back and didn't take one in the first round. They passed over Hampton at number 20. They had a chance to get Travion Henderson trading down in the first round, and he ends up going in the second round and had a real nice year for the Patriots. I don't think they look at running back as the type of position where they feel they need to use a first rounder on. And if they didn't draft a running back in the first round last year, that would be stunning if they did it this year. But of course, we'll have to see what happens in free agency with Dobbins, with Jaleel McLaughlin. If both Dobbins and McLaughlin are all of a sudden gone and they don't sign a free agent or running back, maybe things change there. They've got Tyler Bidet, but he's basically just been a glorified practice squad guy, even though he spent the entire year on the 53.
Yeah, there are a handful of quality running backs that are going to be available free agency. Just taking a look here. I know, of course, Breece Hall, I think, will stay with the Jets one way or another. But they also there's the kid from Atlanta, Algier. He's going to be available. And of course, Kenneth Walker, after winning the MVP, that's going to be interesting to see exactly what happens there. Do you think that they could, like, if they spent big with one position this offseason in free agency, what position do you think, what would be your best guess and what position that would be that they'd spend big at?
Well, there's certainly always talk about, wide receiver. I mean, Stephon Diggs came out at the Super Bowl during the media session and revealed that he was kind of in the mix for Denver, which people didn't know about, because that's a position where you have to spend money at. I don't think they have any inclination to spend much money at running back. One reason is Sean Payton uses a 2-back type system. He likes to rotate his backs, and he has pretty much said, I don't need a bell cow type back. So they're not going to go out and spend crazy free agency money there. And inside linebacker, we talked about that. That's not a super gigantic high paying position. No. And I mean, they went and spent on a tight end last year with Ingram. So I don't know if they want to redo that. So I would say of those positions, wide receiver, just because you got to spend a lot of money for those guys. And at defensive line, if they don't think that Awazarike or Jones is ready to step in as a starter and John Franklin Myers is gone, I mean, they might want to spend some bucks on another defensive lineman.
Yeah, a linebacker could be intriguing, and I think he's going to he'll probably end up with San Francisco, or not San Francisco, but he'll probably end up with Robert Saleh in Tennessee. Is Quincy Williams, but Quincy Williams has got a lot of talent, and he is a player definitely to keep an eye on in free agency at that position. Yeah, it looks like Denver, even though they really, I would say, should have been in the Super Bowl this season. And who knows, maybe could have even won it if Bo Nix had stayed completely healthy. There does appear to be several positions on the team that that they're going to have to take care of this offseason to take that next step. So it's not like it's not like everything is fine and they're just going to retool and we'll be ready to go. And that's pretty much the case most of the time with teams in the NFL, but Denver does have some moves to make in order to take that next step. And I'm assuming, of course, that you're going to be all on top of it all during the offseason. So is that fair to say? Is there a big story at all that you're ramping up for specifically? Or is it kind of, because it seems like to me, just speaking with you, it could be anything. You know, this is going to be a very active offseason for Denver, but it just seems to be that you don't know what's going to happen from all these different positional needs, and there's a little bit of money to spend, and who knows what they're going to do with the draft. So I think it's going to be an interesting offseason for a team that came real close to winning the Super Bowl.
Well, I hope it's accurate when you say that I'll be on top of it, but I'll try to do my best there, Greg. What's interesting is this is a team that likes to lock up players to contract extensions. I mean, this past year, it was Cortland Sutton, Nick Benito, Zach Allen, Will Lutz, Malcolm Roach. From August to November, 5 guys they locked up to lucrative extensions. So you got a good feel there of who they like. So those who are free agents, I mean, excluding the restricted guys, because you generally don't extend guys when playing the restricted free agents game. So put a little asterisk next to Jaquan McMillan. But that kind of gives you a gauge of who they liked. And if any of these other free agents, the unrestricted ones, I mean, none is certain to return because they would have already gotten an extension if they were certain.
All right. Well, Chris, I really appreciate it. Again, to be able to do this on a Saturday night. It's great to have you on and talk about the Denver Broncos once again. I look forward to doing it again with you right after the draft, because that's pretty much the time when every team has a great deal of their roster activity taken over, and they know what their roster is going to look like for the next season. So I look forward to talking to you then. I have links in the description of this video too, where anybody out there that's watching can check out all of your work over at the Denver Gazette. So again, I appreciate your time as always, Chris.
Hey, really appreciate it. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Chris. All right, that's Chris Tomasson, Denver Gazette. We'll look forward to talking more Denver Broncos with him in a few months, barring anything dramatic happening, big story, major trade, stuff like that. We're going to be back again next week actually, I shouldn't say that. We're going to be back again tomorrow at 2:00 Eastern to talk about the Carolina Panthers. So, yeah, we're doing double duty over the weekend. So we're talking Carolina Panthers tomorrow with Rashad Beard, and he is with the Panther Nation podcast on YouTube. And then right now for next week, we have scheduled so far 2 interviews. Thursday, Alice Kozora with SteelersDepot.com on the Pittsburgh Steelers, 4:00 on Thursday, 8:00 on Thursday with Travis Holmes. He is a beat reporter for BigCatCountry.com on the Jacksonville Jags. So that's what's coming up here on Proline TV, the Ourlads Football Network, as far as our football coverage. Again, thanks to Chris Tomasson. I'm Greg DePalma. We'll see you again real soon, right here